Welcome back to The Goodness Habit, where joy is a muscle and we're learning how to flex it. I'm your host, Hannah, and today I want to give you a very, very important question. One that's going to help reverse your negativity bias, which I've talked about in previous episodes, but I'll recap it again in this episode. And also, stop our tendency to immediately take a thought and run with it in the wrong direction. Stick with me and I'll tell you exactly what I mean. So last week we talked about how just because a thought feels true doesn't mean it's true. We need to take it captive, we need to examine it, and sometimes we just need to let it pass. We don't need to give it attention, we don't need to give it focus. Today we're going to take that one step further because it's not just about noticing the thought, it's also about challenging it. And that is exactly what we need to do in order to help us come down from really high states of stress that's being driven by a negative thought or a negative pattern. So here's the question. Where's the evidence? Where is the evidence? I did an episode several weeks back about a question that helps stop mom anxiety spirals. And that question is that actually true? If you want to take a listen, the episode is actually called, Is That Actually True? So that is a binary question. It's a yes or no. This one is going to take it one step further. So let's quickly recap negativity bias. Negativity bias simply means that our brain is wired to pay more attention to what's wrong than what's right. If 10 things go right and one thing goes wrong, it will naturally focus on that one wrong thing, the mistake, the tension, the thing that feels off a lot faster, and it holds on to it a lot longer. It's why you find yourself ruminating over that one wrong thing and kind of forgetting about all the other good things that have happened. And it's not because you're negative, it's because your brain is trying to protect you. Go back thousands of years to our ancestors, and from a survival standpoint, the negative things mattered more. The tiger that was going to eat you, the bear that was in the forest. So the brain adopted and evolved from there, and it's learned to highlight the negative things, except the negative things aren't really tigers and bears anymore. In modern motherhood, that wiring can make one hard moment feel like it defines everything. And that's why we need a way to interrupt it and ultimately rewire our brains so that we are putting as much or more emphasis on the good than the bad. Okay, so let's think back to some not so grand moments. Maybe you overreacted over some spilled milk and you snapped at your kids. A very real situation for me. I'm convinced that whoever coined the phrase, "don't cry over spilled milk," was not a mom. I've definitely cried over spilled milk. So take a situation like that. Your brain immediately says, "I'm failing. I can't do this anymore. I can't handle it." Sometimes those moments don't feel like just an emotion. It feels like a fact. But in that moment, your brain is not operating from its calm logical center, which is the prefrontal cortex. It's operating from the amygdala, which is the brain's threat detector. It's scanning for problems. It's trying to protect you. But when your amygdala is running the show, your thinking brain, that prefrontal cortex, goes offline. That means you're not thinking clearly, you're reacting, and you're not able to rationalize the situation. And your brain's going to start telling stories that feel urgent and true, but aren't always accurate. So when you start to feel that spiral and you start carrying that through your day, that's where the question comes in. You need to ask yourself, wait, where's the evidence that I'm completely failing motherhood? Where's the evidence that I can't handle motherhood? Not in a harsh, critical way, but in a curious way that also helps you challenge the thoughts that are shooting out from your amygdala with the good things that are coming from your prefrontal cortex. Most of the time when you ask that question, I think you'll realize that there isn't solid evidence for the harsh conclusion your brain just made. What you actually experienced is one hard moment, one reaction you didn't like, one situation that didn't go the way you wanted. I'll use this question with my kids too, if they're really frustrated and they say things like, "It is the worst day ever," or "I can't do anything right, I'm a bad kid." I'll ask them, okay, well, where's your evidence? And it forces them to sit there and think about it. And every time it comes back to one very isolated event. And I'll say, okay, well, you had a hard moment. That doesn't mean you're a bad kid. It doesn't mean it was the worst day ever because these other good things happened too. That shift from emotional reaction that feels factual to thoughtful evaluation tells your brain, slow down. Let's actually look at this. It interrupts that mental spiral and forces your brain to zoom out a bit. Let's take a look at the full picture, not just that really loud moment. So this week, when your thoughts start to spiral, notice them, as we talked about in last week's episode, and then ask yourself, where's the evidence? You don't need to win every argument in your head. You don't need to force positive thinking. You just need to bring your brain back to truth, one question at a time. If you're enjoying the Goodness Habit podcast, I'd love it if you'd rate the show wherever you're listening. Thanks so much, my friend, and don't ever forget, not every day is good, but there is good in every day.